All right, Ms. Rulli, if you would like to go ahead. Again, what I'll be doing is I'll be hearing from you. I'll then be hearing from Mr. Davis, and then I'll give you a brief opportunity to respond.
Okay. I brought this claim today. We had an agreement. We've got a child together, which is 2.5 years old now. I have been the sole provider from him since his birth. In which point, 5 months old, I had to move back to Tennessee in order to get help with finances and childcare and basically anything I needed as far as supporting the child. So I did what I needed to, moved back to Tennessee. At which point there had already been a parentage case that was opened in the state of Washington that was opened in August of 2023. We appeared in court October of 2023. The judge granted the motion for paternity testing. Paternity testing was done in February the following year. Paternity was proven on our son in March of that same year, of which point the discussion between Mike and I had been for Mike to meet Jaden for the first time. In August of 2024, we had communicated in which Mike had agreed he wanted to come out, meet Jaden for the first time. So I agreed to it. There was an original agreement at that time for if he wanted to fly out and meet Jaden, I would fly back out to Washington in order to pick Jaden back up. With this being said, we also had numerous conversations as far as the trip being about Jaden, him spending time with Jaden. Initially, I was under the impression it was going to be a week that he spent time with Jaden. However, that week was shortened down to a Friday through a Sunday trip to Tennessee to meet his child that I had been taking care of for the first time ever. He flies in on Friday, August the 11th, at which point I did submit evidence to show that basically he made the statement that he could be available to my schedule after having the conversation of having to leave work, making arrangements for him to see Jaden, spend time with Jaden, so on and so on. Therefore, I ended up, because of lack of communication, having to miss an entire day's work that Friday that he flew into town. Through the period of Friday through Sunday, there was a total of 9 hours that was spent with our child for the first time meeting him in his life. Therefore, as a mother that had been solely providing for him for an entire year of his life, I was not comfortable sending him across the country with somebody that basically was still a stranger to him. Therefore, when I started getting cold feet on the situation, Mike decided, by begging and pleading, me giving in, because as a mother, I do want a father figure to be present in Jaden's life. I agreed with evidence that yet I've supported that if he were to fly Jaden back to Tennessee, that I would agree to it. Therefore, I did agree to it because he showed me proof of the plane tickets, that he had intent to return to Tennessee on the date we had discussed, just to get a text message while I'm at work on Wednesday the following week saying that if I wanted Jaden back, I had to come get Jaden from the state of Washington. With that being said, of a mother that has taken sole care of that child for an entire year of his life, I did what I felt any mother would do. I dropped everything to fly across the country to get my child to make sure he was safely returned to me, because I still had not had any civil conversations at which point that benefited either me or Mike as far as his involvement with Jaden. So all the expenses that trip cost me was from the equity from my previous divorce. And I retained a lawyer while in the state of Tennessee because we did not have a parenting plan in place to say who had custody of Jaden and who did not. I had already been misled on August the 11th when he dropped Jaden back off to me, saying that he was going back to his hotel to rest, to find out the next day when he carried conversation with my best friend that he and his girlfriend had basically went out on the town after telling me he was going back to the hotel to rest. Therefore, that was the more than second time. I'm sorry.
The pressure builds quickly. Law enforcement agencies become involved. Emergency legal filings are made.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's the nature of these hearings, is that I get to interrupt and to ask questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Did I hear you right that there was not a parenting plan in place at this time?
Correct.
Okay. And then I just want to clarify. So Michael came out Friday through Sunday to visit, and then after that, he flew back to Washington
Yes,
with Jaden.
ma'am. Yes,
And
ma'am.
the understanding was that Michael was going to bring him back.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But at this time, there was no parenting plan or anything in writing about this.
Correct. There's more to it if I can continue. Am I allowed to continue?
Yes, please do go ahead. Thank you for.
When I got to the state of Washington and dealing with not only Thurston County Sheriff's Department, I dealt with Tumwater Police Department, I dealt with Pierce County in order to guarantee the safe return of my child, because I had been told basically that I was not getting my child back until the date that we had originally agreed on. I filed through Pierce County, which was later granted a habeas corpus in order to get the child back. Therefore, the law enforcement could enforce for me to get my child back. I also, at that time, filed a parenting plan with Pierce County at that time, therefore, to get the process started of the parenting plan, because I was not aware the way the parentage case read was it basically was just acknowledging both of us as the parents. It did not say who had custody and who had not. However, again, I was the one that has been supporting this child from the very first day of birth. So at which point I jumped through hoops while in the state of Washington in order to guarantee that I did get my son back in a safe manner, back safely with me, because I had already been misled by Michael. And how was I to know that I was going to get him back on the day that he said he was going to give him back? I wanted to make sure that happened, because as any mother would do, that child has been in my care since day one. And with this being, I'm sorry.
Did you have more?
I do. The day that they flew into town, we had conversed about me only taking a partial day of work off. And I was told his exact wording on the exhibit is, you tell me when you're available. I'm available all day. I made this trip to see Jaden. That's his exact wording on the message. Therefore, I was trying to be available. I ended up missing the entire day of work because of the lack of communication for that Friday. Not to mention, when I got the text message to tell me if I wanted Jaden, I could come get Jaden. That was also my last day of employment, because while I was out of town fighting to get my child back, I get a text message from the employer that I was working with at the time that said, due to my current situation, they were ending my assignment at work. So I lost my job on that too, to make sure basically that I got my child back, our child back.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Davis?
Yes. So, yeah, what she's not telling you is that, and she briefly went over it, was that, and she actually didn't tell you that there was a previous trip that was supposed to be planned for me to come down and see him and be there for his birthday, where plans were in place. No tickets were bought, thank God. But she decided that at that point in time, she didn't like me, so she didn't want me to come.
What happens next becomes a major point of dispute. The father maintains that his personal activities during free time were irrelevant.
There was multiple conversations prior to us arriving in Tennessee for this trip. Multiple conversations about her picking him up from the airport, me going down to see him. There was no set times where we said, I'll have Jaden from this time to this time, and from this time to this time. There was nothing like that was said. When I did land, I told her, I said, hey, I'm here. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning. I was like, I'm here. Whenever you have time. I don't remember my exact words, but I made her sure to know that I was available. She and then returned back and said, and I don't know if she put that text message in there, but she did tell me that she didn't like the way that I was talking to her, and that I would not see my son for the entire trip at that time. So at that point in time, I knew it was going to be a fight with Kelly, because she sometimes likes to have control that she thinks. So yes, that first day I met my son for the first time. We had a great time. We did go back to the hotel. And honestly, what I do on my free time when I'm not with my son is should be of no concern to her at all. Whether I tell her I'm going back to my hotel to rest, or I'm going back to my hotel to do whatever. If I'm not with my son, and when I'm with my son that he's taken care of, which there's never been a complaint that he hasn't, it's really none of our business what I do with my free time. Whether I wanted to go out and see downtown Nashville because I had never been to Nashville before in my life, or if I wanted to go sit in the hotel pool. But she made it about her, and that I was I guess when I was supposed to come to Tennessee, it was just supposed to be be in my hotel, waiting to be available to her or whatnot. Um, the original plan did not get changed until Sunday, when she brought that up, saying, "Oh well, you didn't want to spend any time with the child. You went out to downtown Nashville and partied it up," which was not even close to the truth. Um, yeah, and the whole time that we had Jaden, she would like to state that she was tracking me, but she was not tracking me at that time, because when we had got back to the hotel
Mr. Davis,
Sunday night, getting
I'd
ready to
like you
leave
to go ahead and
on
so the crux of this matter has to do with whether there's any money owed to Ms. Ruley for her expenses to fly out to Washington. So maybe if you could
Mhm.
go, I understand that you're upset by some of the things that she said, but those aren't things that necessarily come into
Yeah,
my
there was
judgment.
never an agreement to pay for anything. There's never, I mean, we're getting to that point. So yeah, she then at the very last minute said, "Oh well, you have to buy a ticket back, this, that, and the other thing." And I had bought the ticket and fully intended to do that. Like I said, there was no parenting plan in place. So then, as we get back to the hotel that night, she is tracking us. She had put trackers in Jaden's car seat that we had to dig for and find. She also put trackers in his bag. So when we get back to Washington, I tried to file cases against her for that, because it's illegal tracking. But the judges, they it was a pain in the butt, and never happened. So at that point in time, I told her, I said, you're gonna have to fly back out here. Changed it just like she had changed it from the original agreement. And then she ends up showing up at my
I
house.
understand, right, that you changed it. Did you change it because of the trackers?
Yeah. And after speaking to attorneys and stuff like that, there was no parenting plan in place. So whoever had possession, I hate to say it like that, but whoever had possession of the child had possession of the child. So then she ended up, I guess, flying out here, like I said, because she showed up. The cops came. The cops told her the same thing that they told me, is that there's no parenting plan in place, so there's nothing that they could enforce. Whoever had the child, and I had the child at the time. Uh, I had all intentions of giving Jaden back to Kelly at the time that we had stated. Uh, I actually returned him a day early because she had her attorney call me, and he was begging and pleading that I'd return Jaden for a birthday party that wasn't even on the agreement. So she changed the agreement again and wanted him back a day early than what was supposed to be happening.
The mother pushes back hard. She explains that her concern was never a night out in Nashville, but the breakdown of trust.
So yeah, I never agreed to pay $9,000 to come to Washington because you decided that you wanted to not hold up your end of the agreement, because she just said that she didn't have any money, that she was broke, yet she had money from a previous divorce that she could fly back out to Washington. So I mean, she lied to me initially when she said that she didn't have any money to deal with Jaden. Because if she didn't have any money, how did she fly out here? She just stated that she had money in from her previous divorce or whatnot. So, I mean, her lying to me about not having money to fly out was just a part of her thing that she does. I mean, she's taken me to court plenty of times. So
Ms. Ruley, did you, what information would you like for me to know? And again, I want you to focus on any agreements that you had, as opposed to any discord that you had with Mr. Davis. And also, if you could walk me through, I didn't understand all of the expenses that you had highlighted. If we could talk about that as well.
Okay. Initially, from what he even states on the exhibits that I submitted, the trip was about Jaden. The only reason Friday upset me, it wasn't the fact that he went out on the town. It was the fact that he broke the trust that we were trying to build by misleading me and telling me he was going back to rest is the reason he was dropping his son off at 7:30. Had he told me he wanted to experience Nashville, it would have been a different story. That was where my trust had started breaking. On Saturday, again, he said the trip was about Jaden. I did not hear from him until 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon, where he was requesting to meet up to get Jaden. Therefore, my friend, I had to go into work on a Saturday that I normally don't work in order to make up for the day that I had missed prior. And again, he had already taken pretty much half of the day and then reaches out to me and says he wants to meet up in order to get Jaden and spend time with Jaden. At which point, when Jaden was born, these trackers that he is mentioning were not put on Jaden's stuff when he came in the picture. I sent him proof prior to where those trackers were put on Jaden's diaper bag, every single one of Jaden's diaper bags, as well as Jaden's car seat. And rightly so, because I had no idea where my child was in the state of Washington had it not been for Google and just by chance knowing his girlfriend's last name. Secondly, the money that he is mentioning me getting from my previous divorce, literally the week that this happened is literally when that money was deposited in my account from my previous marriage. Had it not been from the timing on that money being deposited in my account, I would never have been able to fly out to Washington to get Jaden back to make sure that he got a safe return with me. So forgive me for being a concerned mother to want to make sure that my child is safe with somebody that he has no idea who he is.
Thank you. What I'd like to do is understand some of these charges. Take a look here. I'll go ahead and let you both know that my intent today is to take this matter under advisement. And essentially, I need to take a little bit more time to do some legal research into the nature of the claims and what what might be
Attention shifts to detailed expenses. The judge carefully reviews hotel stays, transportation costs,
just and equitable and legally correct answer in this matter. And in order to do that, I do need to put a little bit more information on the record. And I had some questions about there's the highlights that are in the exhibit, I believe it's exhibit F. So on page 4, for August 16th, there is a Fairbridge Inn charge for $307. What was that?
That was when I first came into Washington. So I ended up having to stay in 2 different hotels because my funds were starting to deplete at that point. I couldn't afford to stay at Fairbridge anymore, so I ended up getting a room to finish out the stay until I found out on Jaden at the Comfort Inn, which is later on charges that was also highlighted in there.
And how many days were you in Washington?
I was in Washington from August 15th through, I believe it was the 24th. It was either the 23rd or the 24th. It might have been the 23rd.
And during this time, were you unable to find Jaden? Is that why
I knew where he was. The law enforcement I didn't find out where he was until a few days into my stay. And that's only because law enforcement at that point, we had already spoke and we were able to find out the address that he was at that point staying at. Because the only address I had on file was his previous address, which was an apartment in Tenino.
were you not in contact with Mr. Davis at this point?
Well, I was the day after. So I landed in Washington that Thursday. He sent me the text message, but I was not in contact with Mike until the following day because I didn't know his location and I was scared if he found out that I was coming to Washington that he would flee with my son again and I would not get him.
So you didn't tell him where you were, or you didn't tell him that you were in Washington?
I never responded after he sent me the text message saying if I wanted to come get Jaden, if I wanted Jaden back, I had to come get Jaden. I never responded back from him until the following day, at which point the law enforcement had already stepped in because I had already contacted them and met up with them.
So you didn't let him know that you were in Washington and that you wanted Jaden back, like he said?
No, I did not. Because like I said, I was fearful that he was going to take off with my son again.
Okay.
If I could say something, Your Honor.
What I will do is I will give you an opportunity to look into this or to respond. So take notes about anything that you'd like me to know, and I'll give you an opportunity to respond after this.
Thank you.
And both of you, I want you to know, I don't want you to take, I don't want you to assume that you think that you know how I'm going to rule based on the questions that I'm asking. I am simply trying to understand the question. I will then do some legal research to determine what is the legally correct outcome. And what I'm doing now is trying to set the record and understand what is going on so that I can appropriately apply the facts to the record. Okay? And part of that is I need to look at some of these expenses. So it looks like, so you've explained the multiple hotels, which was a question that I had. And it looks like you rented a car.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what is the charge from 819 for $5,438?
That was for my attorney that I was retaining in order to verify that or not verify, but in order to make sure that I could get Jaden back. I retained Travis Groves as the attorney. In which at that point, I still wasn't even guaranteed that I'd get Jaden back.
What is the charge at the Pierce County Library?
That is where I was printing off the paperwork in order to file the parenting plan, which I did that day.
Mr. Davis, you can have your opportunity to respond.
Yeah, I just want to. She keeps like saying that
The father returns to a familiar theme. He argues that he never hid the child, never refused to return permanently.
like she never asked me for my address, and I would have given it to her. So that's the one thing. Like she's like saying that I was hiding, like I wasn't ever planning on getting him back, and that was never the case. I never said I wasn't going to return him or I wasn't going to get him back to where he belongs. So I just want to make that sure that's known.
Can I ask for your perspective on why this may not be legally relevant, but she has stated that she believed that you weren't going to return him and that you stated that if she wanted him back, she had to fly out there. Can you have your response to that?
Yeah, after she had changed the agreement, I basically did the same thing that she had done to me. I changed the agreement. We had an agreement originally that I would fly down, she would fly back. Then I get there, she gets mad, she changes the agreement. We get back, find that there's trackers. I changed the agreement. There was no parenting plan in place. There was nothing saying you fly here and you fly here. We did have a parenting plan in place months later where it worked out that uh and there was no issues where I would fly to get him and I would fly to return him. There was one couple times where she flew out one way, but most of the time it was me flying both ways. That was in a parenting plan and an agreement. That was all set in stone. So that's how that ended up. There was an original agreement. She got mad, she changed it. I got mad, I changed it. I mean, and now she wants to blame me for her losing her job and stuff when I never. I mean, she obviously never had, and it seems to me that there was never anything in good faith with her because it seems to me that she never planned on allowing me to return to Washington with my child, nor did she, ever purchase the ticket ahead of time because he was going to be there for, I believe it was a week. So, I mean, she should have already had that ticket purchased to return to retrieve Jaden. So it just makes me. I bought my ticket to go see my son a month and ahead a time before I was supposed to go see him. Like I knew when I was going. I had the hotel booked. I had plane tickets booked. I had a rental car in place. This was all a month before I was supposed to go pick up my son. She had nothing in place to come retrieve him. Nothing at all. So there was never intent for her to come and retrieve him. She was never going to let me leave Tennessee without him because if you're going, a normal person, if they're going to go retrieve their child, they buy those tickets ahead of time. Just like every time in our parenting agreement that she had to come out and retrieve Jaden, she had bought those tickets more than a week in advance.
So I'm trying to understand here. So there was the initial trip where you flew out to Tennessee, and then did you take Jaden back to Washington with you?
I took Jaden back to Washington with me, yes. Yes.
And at that time, the understanding was that Ms. Ruley was going to fly out to pick him up.
No.
Yes. Yes. And then prior to the Sunday of me leaving, Ms. Ruley then changed it to saying that she didn't have any money, she couldn't afford to go. If I was going to have any contact with my son, I would have to buy a ticket. So I said, fine, I'll buy a ticket. But my thing is that she had never planned on ever giving me.
So then you
doing
agreed,
that because
you agreed that you were going to take Jaden back.
I told her I would, yes.
You told her that you would. And then
like she told me that she would fly out originally.
So originally she said she was going to fly out, and then you
Correct.
said that you were going to fly out, and then you found the trackers, and you decided that
she needed to fly out to get them.
Okay. What, Okay. I think I understand. This is what I'm going to do. I mentioned I was going to take this matter under advisement. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a brief 5 to 10 minute recess, think through what you've told me, do a little legal research, and then I will.
The judge summarizes the facts one last time. She carefully confirms the sequence of promises, changed plans,
Return to the bench, and I will be either delivering my judgment or I will take this matter under advisement for longer to ensure that I can provide the legally correct result. Okay.
Is there a chance I can say one more thing prior to you going into break?
Yes, you may.
So when the agreement changed strictly because I was concerned for Jaden to be in the presence of a stranger, basically. When he agreed, if I was never going to let Jaden go, I would have never let Jaden go that day that he flew back to Washington. I had spoke to the courts here in Tennessee. I had spoke to local law enforcement. Multiple law enforcement agencies were telling me they advised against it. But being a mother wanting to have my child's father involved in his life, I still allowed it to happen. And there is the agreement, even if I don't know of any mother that would honestly let their child go with a complete stranger, not just to the bordering state, but across the country. And prior to that, as far as the addresses go, I never asked for his address and I never pushed for his address because I never even had any idea he had moved. All he had ever given me for any type of communication was a P.O. box. That was it. So therefore, I was not comfortable with my son across the country, not knowing where he was at or how to get in contact with him, with me being at that time the only one that was providing insurance for him if something were to have happened to him.
Okay. So one more time before I step back, let's see if there's, so initially you said that you were going to fly out to Washington to pick him up. Then while he was in Washington, you didn't have the money to pick him up. So you asked Mr. Davis to return him and Mr. Davis agreed. Is that right, Mr. Davis? You agreed to return him initially?
I said I would, yes.
Okay. And then you changed your mind and then you said that you wouldn't. Okay. Just want to make sure I understand the after finding trackers. Okay. Anything else from either of you before I step off?
Yeah, she never told me she was coming to Washington to pick him up, and that was that would have been a different conversation probably. But she decided that she just wanted to show up and do these things. So, I mean, if she would have originally just had her plane ticket scheduled and bought and paid for, she would have been okay. But it doesn't seem like she even had that in place. So
I didn't have it in place because I was the only one providing for the child at that time. I did not have the funds.
So you were going to buy it. You're going to buy it the week that I had
not
him.
to be having an argument on the record. The purpose of this is for me to understand what happened in this case, not for either of you to be arguing with one another. So with that, I will take a brief recess and I will return to the bench. So the primary question that I wanted to ask and to determine was whether small claims is the appropriate forum for this, given that this is really a parenting plan, family law issue. One of the things that has decided this for me is the fact that there was no parenting plan in place at this time that I would hope would otherwise include information about transport for the child, times for visitation, who will do the pickup and drop off, things like that should be ironed out in parenting plans. In this matter, because there was no parenting plan, it appears to me that if anything, this is a contract issue. Contracts can be in writing and they can also be verbal. In law school in the very first year, one of the things that we learn about is what constitutes a contract. Contract involves an offer and acceptance and consideration. And the primary thing that they instill in us is to ensure that there is a meeting of the minds between the parties. Without a meeting of the minds between the parties, there can be no contract. I heard quite a bit from both of you about what happened in this case with regards to initial agreements, changing the agreements, going back to the other agreements, going back here and there. And it seems to me that there is quite a bit of strife between the two of you with regards to your child. And I think that both of you certainly have reasons for feeling that way. It is very emotional to be a parent and to care for the safety of your child. That is one of the things that is of the utmost importance. It appears to me that there was no formalized agreement with this. And due to that, there is no basis in small claims to enter a judgment in favor of the plaintiff. Now, Ms. Ruley, I do absolutely understand why you took the actions that you took. You were acting for the safety of your child. It appears that there was certainly some disagreement between the two of you with regards to what would happen. And it appears that perhaps with both of you, there may have been some sort of gamesmanship between the two of you in terms of what could have happened, should have happened, and blame going back and forth. I hope that you both listened carefully to the speech that I gave in the beginning when I said that I cannot make an agreement based on what I think is right, what I think is fair, or what I think is morally correct or right. If I were allowed to do that, I can't say that I would make a different agreement, but those opportunities are foreclosed to me. I can only make what is the legally correct decision in this case. And in this instance, I can't make a decision about who acted rightly or wrongly. I can only make a decision based on what's legally correct. And it seems to me there was no meeting of the minds between what was supposed to happen. And it is your burden to meet this by a preponderance of the evidence, and I'm unable to find that you did. And that is my judgment.
I will continue to take care of our son by myself. Thank you.
Thank you. I do hope that there is hope for what can go forward, which is to ensure that there is a parenting plan between the two
There
of you.
is, and I've got full custody, and the state of Washington's really failing me, but I appreciate you wasting your time. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. You have a great day.
You are both free to go.
Here comes the final turning point. After reviewing the law, the judge concludes there was no clear meeting of the minds and no formal parenting plan governing transportation. Because the agreement lacks certainty, the small claims request is denied, ending the case without financial recovery.